They parked a $90,000 Escalade on my family's ranch and then laughed at me right there in front of the sheriff. I remember the headlights cutting across my pasture like an insult, leather seats and entitlement spilling out onto ground my great-grandfather bought with GI Bill money. They told me there wasn't a damn thing I could do, and the HOA president, Clarissa Piton Hayes, actually smiled when she handed me laminated papers that smelled like counterfeit authority. I'm M. Weatherby. I'm 52 third generation on this land in hill country, and until 6 weeks ago I thought property rights still meant something. My grandfather fought through Europe and came home, bought 200 acres in 1947, and taught us the honest rhythm of ranch life, diesel hay cattle, early mornings, the kind of work that wears you like a good pair of boots. For 20 years before I ran the place, I wired grain elevators and shopping centers. I know volts the way some men know breath. It started small, like most invasions do, a complaint about smell, a suggestion about curb appeal. Clarissa moved in from California and brought a clipboard she treated like a scepter. 3 months into her life in Whispering Pines Estates, she decided my cattle were devaluing her community and decided to suggest improvements. Then she decided my driveway was a new parking spot. One morning I found her Escalade 30 feet onto my land, blocking the cattle gate. When I tapped on the window, she rolled it down with that practiced, syrupy smile and said, "Oh, hi, Mr. Weatherby, our surveyor says this is common easement." She handed me laminated pages that felt slick and fake. Deputy Rodriguez came out, read the papers, and reclassified the trouble as a civil matter. Civil. To him, polished talk and printed forms were more credible than 70 years of Weatherby deeds. That stung not because I didn't expect bureaucracy, but because I expected common sense. They escalated a lawyer in a suit that cost more than I make in a year, pink survey flags planted like staking a claim. More luxury cars idling on my land as if horsepower were title. Then the smear campaign started. Flyers on windshields calling me dangerous, social posts with cropped photos making my life's work look like a hazard. My wife Sarah, who works nights at the hospital, came home shaking because folks at her unit whispered about the rancher threatening families. When your marriage and your reputation are under attack, strategy turns personal. And what I'd learned in the electrical trade patient's documentation, the way currents behave in damp earth, suddenly felt like more than a set of skills. They were tools. My trail cameras told a story. Clarissa would stop photograph tools through the barn door, make a note leave. I found a business card under my windshield wiper, Burton Corp Development. That was the twist. This wasn't just an HOA squabble. It was a pattern: manufacture problems, increase costs, force a sale, buy cheap. Burton Corp had done it before, and the evidence on my camera's meetings at night, maps spread across hoods, careful trash strewn for photos, made it obvious. This was corporate strategy dressed in suburban charm. I could have let it ride, sued, drained the savings, watched the farm be eaten by legal fees. I didn't. I did what I know how to do. I planned. Wire by wire, post by post, I built a defensive system that would stand up not just to a trespasser, but to a judge's scrutiny. I installed heavy posts, ground rods, sunk into the wettest soil, galvanized wire placed to meet and exceed agricultural standards. I bought a professional-grade energizer and set it to pulse in a way that would disable vehicle electronics without harming people, the sweet spot my years in industrial wiring taught me. I documented everything: voltage readings, pictures, timestamps, signed suppliers' invoices, a contractor license folded into a leather folder like armor. They played their part too. Clarissa brought a lawyer, then organized a peaceful parking demonstration and invited media. Channel 7 rolled a truck for visuals as if suburban spectacle were the same as truth. They were loud, polished, certain. Their plan was simple: get a reaction, capture the reaction, then use the footage to claim danger and liability. They'd even tried to bribe the sheriff to lock me up. Deputy Rodriguez told me that himself with disgust in his voice. They were desperate. Desperation leaves fingerprints. Sunday came clean and cold. I watched from the kitchen window as their convoy rolled in Escalade, leading a small parade of luxury, metal, and entitlement, and a news crew set up for a story about scary rural tyranny. Clarissa, clipboard in hand, stood inside what she declared their easement and lectured the camera about peaceful demonstration. She gestured, pointed, turned, and did what would prove to be her fatal error. She leaned against the clearly signed line I had posted. The sound was a clean, beautiful crack, controlled and professional, and for a second the air smelled like ozone and fried plastic. The electronics in that Escalade and the row of cars behind it went dark in waves. Dashboards blanked, alarm systems howled into static, display screens turned into paperweights. Her clipboard flew, her hair stood on end, and for a moment Clarissa Piton Hayes looked confused the way a politician looks when reality hits the wrong script. I walked out with my license and compliance binder, calm as a man who's done his math well. To the camera, I said what I'd been doing aloud for weeks. This is a licensed professional installation on private property, clearly signed and documented. Come look. Rodriguez arrived, took one look at the signs and the paperwork and the smoking dashboards, and couldn't help himself. He laughed. Clarissa accused me of attempted murder. He looked at her and said, "You ignored multiple warning signs and made contact while trespassing. Simple as that." The tape went viral. Channel 7's clip drew federal eyes. White-collar investigators smelled a bigger pattern in open files. Burton Corp's financing schemes couldn't survive subpoenas and cross-checks. Their affidavits and surveys unraveled under scrutiny. Clarissa faced charges for attempted bribery and filing false reports. Her insurance denied the Escalade claim damage sustained during criminal trespass, and the bill landed in her lap. Months later, the feds called it the largest rural property fraud conspiracy in the region. Settlements followed and money changed hands. We recovered enough to pay lawyers and then some. We set up a scholarship fund for kids headed into agricultural and electrical engineering because that's how my head and heart are wired now. There was a reward beyond dollars. Sarah's employer apologized and restored her reputation. Rodriguez ran for sheriff on a platform of protecting rural property rights and won. Our fence became a teaching example at the extension office for how to defend land lawfully. People came to see how documentation and code compliance can be as powerful as a shotgun when the rules are followed. The Energizer still hums in the distance on clear nights, a low, lawful comfort. If there's a moral, and I don't mean to preach, it's this: power doesn't belong to the loudest voice or the shiniest suit. Real power lives where knowledge meets patience, where someone takes the time to understand the rules, to document each step, to build a case that holds in court and in public. I didn't set out to teach anyone a lesson with sparks and smoke. I set out to protect what my family bled for. The lesson came with interest. So what do you think? Did I cross a line, or did I simply defend what's mine? Drop your worst HOA horror story and tell me where you're watching from. If you've ever been pushed into a corner, tell me how you fought back. If this made you think about who really holds power, the person with the loudest voice or the one who knows the rules and waits, hit like, share, and tell your story.